Pidgin, where's the hyper cannon? Okay, thanks. There you are. Hang on a minute. I've got a video idea. I don't care how stupid it looks. I'm committing. Hello, my friends, and welcome to our new backdrop. Do you like it? Well, I hope you do, because I need the $5 rental fee for this pocket dimension to pay itself off. Anyway, on to our subject. After Toy Story 2, companies wanted to keep Toy Story toys on the shelf. However, you can only stretch the branding of a single movie so far, so they invented the brand Toy Story and Beyond. According to the Toy Story merchandise wiki, Hasbro was the one that created the name. But the article seems to contradict itself a bit on that part. You see, it says that the first products from Hasbro started coming out in late 2001, but Battle Command's Buzz Lightyear, a Mattel product, and the earliest cited figure in the article using that branding, apparently came out in 2000, an entire year before Hasbro's products came out. So, basically, the one source of information I can find on this line is somewhat unreliable. We're off to a great start! Well, confusing history aside, the one thing that's shared by most Toy Story and Beyond products is the packaging. So let's take a look at that, shall we? Most Toy Story and Beyond products have most of the background taken up by this solid blue with light blue dots all over it. You'd also see red, yellow, and occasionally green mixed in there, but beyond the occasional white text, that's pretty much it across all of them. We do have some interesting tidbits in the character art though. And no, I'm not talking about weird prototypes on the back, but believe me, we'll get to that later. No, it's more in the fact that they used actual toys in the marketing material. Like, seriously, they used Hasbro Woodies and Jessies on their boxes, but despite clearly having a different Buzz Lightyear in the box at times, they still used the original 1995 Thinkway Buzz on the box. I don't really recall too many toys that do this beyond Lego sets maybe, but even those received some form of Photoshop. So with all that history out of the way, you might be wondering why I'm focusing on Hasbro's offerings in particular. Well, that's because they're the ones that went in and innovated on what had come before. Let me elaborate. Alright, let's start with Woody. Oh boy, is this guy well played with. It's almost embarrassing to show him in his dirty state, but he was one of my favorite toys from childhood, so let's just get into it. He's got the typical yellow shirt with red stripes, along with the fake blue jeans, and the white cow vest. His belt is made with a flimsy sort of fake leather that easily comes off. And while his bandana is intact on mine, it's not the best material. Not exactly the worst though. His head sculpt is good, if slightly inaccurate to the movie. It got closer than the other contenders at the time though, so I'll let it pass. Mine came with 2 yellow marks on the side of his head right out of the box though, so that's weird. His boots are made of a decent material, though the spurs can break, and they commit the cardinal sin of putting Andy's name on the bottom of the boot, so we have to use the other one to write our names down there. Like, I know that some people get mad when it isn't there, but if it bothers you that much, write it down there yourselves. Don't burden the rest of us with it. Anyway, his belt and badge are a bit odd in a few ways. The most obvious one is the blue and white strings attaching him to the belt and vest. Bells before this one had managed to integrate those pieces in without any visible strings, so I don't know why they attached it like that. Also, instead of molding them in the yellow that they would always be, they molded them in light blue and painted them. His hands also have a bit of that effect. Weird. For accessories, we of course have his hat, which is oddly hard and large. And yes, it pains me that I have to phrase it like that. Like, on the hard part, this is probably one of the most solid hats I've ever seen. Most are a bit rubbery in some way, but this is just straight up normal, hard plastic. It's also large compared to his head, and his grip is somewhat tenuous, since it's relying on suction to keep it on. He also has a Woody's Roundup style guitar, which is more for display than anything. I find it interesting how little Woody's Roundup merch is out there. I mean, we had that scene in Toy Story 2 with all that merch, and what have I seen? This guitar, a poster print on eBay, this old beanbag that I've had forever, and I think I saw that teeth contraption somewhere for $30. Anyway, with those bits out of the way, what makes this Woody so special? Well, comparing it to what the competitors were putting out at the time, this is the first skinny pull string Woody that ever came out. Seriously, unless you made a simple plush version that couldn't talk, there was no way to get a Woody with even close to the movie accurate proportions. Now, the Thinkway models that are also used by a Disney store had the excuse of just being the same as the 90s ones that were designed with wires in the arms, but Mattel's effort was just embarrassing. Even as a kid, I called this thing Fat Woody. It's just that bad. Like, they've got the arms right, but the rest of the body is a massive square. Hasbro's efforts were the first to ever reduce Thinkway's pull string assembly small enough to work for a skinnier toy, and I think it deserves credit for that. Oh yeah, you guys want some pull string action, don't you? Well, we can't get it from mine, because back in 2006, my little brother, who is a wee with more subscribers than me now, decided to play with this Woody, without my permission I should note, by a rather high stair ledge. He then proceeded to drop them, presumably while doing a Hitler salute, and at the moment of impact, his pull string broke. That's why you should unsub from him and sub to me. While we wait on that to happen, though, why don't we look up his old sayings on the internet?
Howdy, partner. My name's Woody. I like to play guitar. You're my favorite deputy. Yee-haw, cowboy! Giddy up, partner. Hey, howdy, hey, I am looking good.
A bit egotistical on that last one, but pretty standard otherwise. Now, in the sizing department, I do have to dock some points. This Woody is considerably smaller than most of my other ones, including the collection one. He still doesn't look too bad next to the Hasbro Buzz Lightyear, though. Speaking of which... Buzz Lightyear! Yeah, anybody who was somehow here for the old Framemaster days might remember this one. Seriously, back when I just rambled on camera and called it a review, I reviewed this guy, and it is still one of my highest viewed videos. Why does my worst stuff always get the most views? Anyway, his head sculpt is pretty alright. It's not up to the perfection of the collection Buzz, but it works. His helmet is also one of the most solid I've ever seen. You legit have to unscrew this guy to remove any part of it, which is a feature that not even the collection one can boast about. It does slide up a bit when you tilt the figure a certain way though. The torso has a typical amount of detail, though the Star Command logo is missing the text around it. That was pretty typical around the time though. More interesting details come around his waist however, as this is quite possibly the first full-scale Buzz Lightyear with the anti-gravity belt. Now granted, it's quite inaccurate in some regards and doesn't feature any electronics, but it's notable regardless. The rest of the details are pretty standard after that, so let's get into features. The first one I'll talk about is the voice phrases, and this is where I must bring in my wee brother's version of this toy, that I still have because reasons. The speaker on mine has been somewhat crackly for a while, even before he took a fall and literally busted his guts, so we'll use my brother's for clarity's sake.
Anti-gravity belt. Standard issue. Someone's got to stop that evil Emperor Zurg. Never tangle with a space ranger, my friend. Look at my impressive wingspan.
Pretty alright, though this does bring up a bit of false advertising in a commercial.
To infinity and beyond.
He also has a laser with a variety of sounds, but over the years, the LED on mine has become a bit spotty, since it occasionally doesn't turn on when I press the button, though the sound does still play. I should also note that he does not have a wrist communicator, which a Buzz Lightyear toy should never do. Like, the karate chop action can be done by yourself with his arm, so that can be forgiven. But Buzz Lightyear is almost always using the wrist communicator, so to exclude it means you'll always have to have him talk to his wrist without the communicator being present, which always made me feel stupid. Now here's where we get that bit of lasting innovation, the wings. Back in 2001, every other competitor was using this Bumblebee wing system where they were super short, rather than the movie-accurate longer wings. And apparently, Hasbro actually watched the movie before they made their figure, because it's the first one with the movie-accurate wings. Oh yeah, mine's kinda worn down over the years. Not that he was made from the best materials in the first place. My friends, let me introduce you to the constant companion with this toy. Yeah, he is kinda cheaply made. It did take a long fall and a hard floor to bust his gut though, so it's fine. For articulation, he has a swivel head, ball hinge shoulders, elbow bends, wrist swivels, hinged fingers, waist rotation, ball jointed hips, ratcheted knees, and ratcheted ankles. So overall, this Buzz doesn't seem that special in today's scene, but those wings give him a significant place in Buzz Lightyear history. Heck, they even use the same backpack connectors nowadays. Truly ahead of its time. In terms of scale, Buzz seems to fare better than Woody, since he doesn't seem too short next to the Disney Store Zurg and Collection Woody. But he is meant to be a bit shorter than them, so it's hard to judge. And while I do want to get one eventually, I do not have a collection Buzz Lightyear. So that comparison will have to wait. Maybe it'll find its way to my neglected second channel someday. Well, now that we've looked at the standard versions of these two, why don't we look at all the variations Hasbro put out? Woody's were mostly the same doll, but with new sayings and accessories. But they did change the colors once for this one with a treasure chest. I suppose it makes sense, as you'd have to make an all-new fabric pattern and change Woody's colors, rather than the usual strategy of just repainting the existing mold. Surprisingly though, Buzz didn't tend to stray from the usual colors too much. They just changed the green occasionally. They omitted the wings from these variations a lot though, probably to keep them cheap. When they did change the colors though, you get cool stuff like this green and black Buzz. I knew a kid back in the day that had this, it was pretty cool. Overall, Hasbro's Toy Story and Beyond products aren't really too special compared to today's Toy Story products. But the innovations they made still have lasting effects, and likely will for years to come. I'm Ben Fire, signing out.